Just wanted to put to bed a little bit the Wake Forest game. I thought that our defense played extremely well. From a kicking game standpoint, I thought that our young people went out there and handled the weather really well. We obviously punted a little bit too much, but I thought that Sterling did a fantastic job with the difficulties of punts, some straight punts, some rugby, to keep the other offense at bay and to keep them on their side of the football field. We wish we had played a little bit sharper on offense. There were some outstanding individual performance. I thought Cameron McPherson had his best game. I thought that Bennett, Zaire, for the most part, our linebackers did a fabulous job. And overall, based off the performance, I think that our team fought and stayed in the battle. It was a game all the way to the end until late in the fourth quarter. The team that we're about to play today, Virginia Tech, on Saturday, Virginia Tech has got a proud tradition. Of course, with Fuentes, I played him last year at our other stop. He's an outstanding offensive coach. Bud Foster, fabulous defensive coordinator, one of the top defensive coordinators in college football. They have a lot of good players. They have a lot of athletes on their team. I was looking at a statistic, and I believe they've been to bowl games 23 years in a row. And when you do something like that, not only do you have a lot of good coaches, but you have a lot of good players. So it's going to be a challenging task. We're excited to get back into the dome. No rain, no wind, no snow, and we're looking forward to putting a fantastic effort back home in front of the fans. Questions?
In the back, Mark.
Hey, Coach, second half offense, I think it's 2 touchdowns now in the last 4 games. So I don't know, but it seems to me that teams must be adjusting. So do you give any serious thought to changing quarterbacks at halftime or doing something really dramatic to adjust to their adjustment?
No, we're not changing quarterbacks. That's not something, we're doing everything we can, and I think we're doing a good job. The thing about offense is that on offense, one guy makes a mistake and it can stop the entire play. Sometimes you can get covered up. Most of the times it can stop the entire play. Defensively, you can have one person make a mistake, and if they guess wrong, they went the wrong way, it can be covered up. If they guess right, it looks really bad, okay? So offensively just takes a little bit more time. From the first half to the second half, we're going to have to keep working at it. We can't tell you why it works one half and not the other half. But these young men, they're close. They're close, and I think that as long as we keep with the process and keep doing the things that we need to do, I think we're going to be fine.
It's not fatigue, is it, given your depth?
I couldn't hear the.
It's not fatigue, is it, in the second half, given your depth?
I would like not to think that. We do not have a lot of depth, but again, at halftime we have a huge break. They get treated really nice at halftime, and they should be as fresh as starting the opening of the game, minus the number of plays they played in the first half. So I really would not like to say it's fatigue.
John?
Have you gotten a chance to rewatch the hit that Kendall Coleman was ejected for, and what do you think of the play and the call?
Yeah, I got a chance to see the play. I looked at it a bunch of times. I think it was a bang play. Obviously, I think it could have been called either way. I'm still hopeful that they reverse the call, because I did not see helmet-to-helmet contact. Now, he did go high on the quarterback. I thought it was a shoulder pad. I do not have the perfect look, the perfect clip yet. So if you guys have one out there to send me, please let me see it. But this looked like a bang play, the same type of plays I saw in the Miami and Florida State games that were on highlights. So they get to make the call.
Chris?
Regarding halftime adjustments too, you've talked about how it's difficult for a young team to transfer concepts, from the locker room to the field. I'm wondering if you've experienced that before with other teams, and is there like a time frame where you think it clicks and it's easier?
Again, third time around. First time around when we were at Eastern Illinois with Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo had been a freshman starter for 2 years in a traditional throw offense. So in changing concepts with him, he'd already had a 2-year base. In going to Bowling Green, the very first year when we had our quarterback that got hurt in the first game and we had to go to our backup, the entire year, and we won our side of the conference and lost the championship game. We had some difficulties with him because he didn't have as much game management experience as the starter who got hurt in the first game. The second year when we got the other young man back, a lot smoother. Again, someone who had played a lot of years in a traditional throwing offense, and we did not have an issue. That was Matt Johnson. I think he ended up 46 yards short of 5,000 yards. And now here, I think not Dungy has the experience as a starter, but when you're changing from an option-based offense to a throwing offense, they really did not have the throwing concepts last year that we have here. So it just takes time until we build up his reservoir enough. And it's not just Dungy, it's the entire offense. We build all of them up enough so that they can really be comfortable with the stuff with the adjustments that we're making.
Is that something you think they can get this year, or do you have to like go through a season and a half, kind of like you talked about?
Traditionally, the offense really gets good somewhere between the second year, between game 4 and 6.
Steven and then Mario.
Talking with Colin Byrne after the game, he said sometimes it was hard to identify everything the Wake Forest defense was doing before the snap, especially when you're trying to go fast. I understand that's not the kind of conditions you'll be playing in every game, and because of that, every team's not going to try and blitz like that. But what do you ask for the offensive line, I guess particularly the center, to see before the snap? And is there any thought that when you do try and go fast, maybe they can't always see everything?
It's first of all, the centers, the guards, the quarterbacks, the entire offensive line, they have a lot to do before the snap. But so does the defensive line. And the thing with tempo is that everybody's accelerated. You have to be able to operate at that accelerated pace. We talked about playing chess and playing tournament chess and putting the extra pressure on the other opponent. I think the biggest thing is when you're playing in tempo offenses, you have to take a deep breath and you have to relax. Even though it looks chaotic, it's really under control. The biggest thing that we have to do, and I think the best thing that Wake Forest did, is they attacked some of our young people inside, and we need to be able to do things to help them in that situation. We tried to adjust to certain things, and they just turned into physical mismatches. The schemes were solid, but some of their Jimmies were tougher than some of our Joes, bigger, stronger, and we had some issues with leakage internally on some of the stuff.
You said after the game that maybe you would have liked to run the ball a little bit more in the first half, possibly in early downs. Now that you've gone through, rewatched everything, is that still kind of how you feel about the overall play calling?
Well, the biggest thing about that is you take extra hits off the quarterback. When you're out there and you're trying to throw the ball and the weather's not agreeing with you, whether the quarterback gets sacked or not, there's shots that he's taking. Every time that he takes off and he runs, he takes a hit. Those bruises add up when you want him to throw the ball efficiently in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. I thought that the quarterback was extremely courageous the entire football game. You can control the amount of times he's going to get hit when you run the football. And if we'd have ran it a little bit more, I think that we might have been a lot fresher, okay, in the second half when the weather changed to take more advantage of it.
Right. Did you, how thoroughly did you kind of look at the weather report? Obviously, you knew when you're going one way, you're going into the wind and the rain, so I'm sure you can't do as much. But was the idea that you thought it was going to clear up in the second half and that you knew
You're asking me if weather reports are always accurate.
No. I'm asking you if you thought it might have cleared up in the second half and that factored into your game plan.
Absolutely. We wanted to have the win in the fourth quarter. We could have decided which way we wanted to go. When we came out at halftime, we decided to take it in the fourth because we knew it was going to be a fourth quarter game.
Mario.
You talked about the offensive line and the young and inexperienced that you have on there. Was it just the way the weather was on Saturday, or did you have to adjust your game plan with how the pressure was being put on you by Wake Forest?
It's both of them. When it's slick like that, there were certain things that we were doing where it was extremely difficult for the offensive linemen. So we had to adjust that as well, okay? And then we had to change schemes as well. There was a lot of chess match stuff going on. It was a good battle.
Nate.
I think we have a pretty good idea of the freshmen who are probably redshirting this year. I wanted to ask about Jamal Custis. He was a guy that got a little nicked up in training camp. I don't think we've seen him yet this year. Because we're now at the halfway point, is he a guy that you're looking at maybe saving for a couple of years down?
We still got to see. He was actually traveled with us this Saturday. Last Saturday to Wake Forest for the very first time. And we just got to see how he continues to develop, whether he's going to be at full speed where he can help us in the back half or not. But he was one of our top performers coming out of 2 days before he got hurt.
would it make sense to maybe, at this point, consider a red shirt, just then you get 2 more years with them?
The word makes sense. Right now, we're still battling to be a bowl team. So we want to play our best players if possible.
Mark?
Go back to the midterm thing, halfway through the season, could you give us a midterm grade or progress report on your team?
You know, I think we're still growing. Obviously, there's been some shortcomings. There's been some fantastic things that have gone on, probably things that have surprised a lot of people in this room. It happens. It happens with maturity. It happens with growth. The toughest thing that's been going on so far this year is just to have the massive turnover in personnel, and then to have to constantly reteach or go back to a certain level as the weakest link in your chain to start growing again, start building again on that foundation so that you can start doing more exotic things, offensively and defensively.
Would that be a D?
I don't want to put a grade on. You guys can grade it. I'll coach it and I'll make it better.
Matt?
Hey, Coach. What impresses you about Virginia Tech this year now, back inside the top 25, and they obviously just went inside a rainy environment, playing against North Carolina and pulled out the win. And also, are you familiar with the rivalry between these two teams? I know I haven't played in a long time, haven't had a chance to play Virginia Tech, but have you revisited that in the past and seen them?
I have not revisited the rivalry, so I don't want to be amiss on that. I do know that I know a lot about Fuentes. I've known, I shouldn't say I've known, I've seen Bud Foster's work over the years. I know how good he is. And I believe like the last 3 opponents, the average is like 45-7. Boston College, East Carolina, North Carolina, the average is like 45-7 is the score out of those last 3 opponents. So outside of the Tennessee loss, they've been playing fantastic. They have explosive players. They are extremely well coached on defense. They are aggressive. They are physical. And offensively, their scheme works. You know, I've seen it up close and personal when Fuentes was at Memphis when they scored 44 points on my team that I was the head coach of last year. So I'm very familiar with what they do on offense, and Bud Foster's been around a long time, and he's been fabulous on defense forever. 23 years straight with a bowl. That's pretty impressive.
Steven?
You know, when you looked at how Wake Forest, and I'm sure teams in the past 2 weeks have attacked the offensive linemen, what's unique about what they're doing? How are they being strained? Is it a matter of just bringing more numbers, different techniques? You know, what are those kind of specific things?
It's a lot of stuff, Stephen. There's different techniques. There's different fronts. They, from a personnel standpoint, they'll flop personnel to attack certain people who they feel are weaker or stronger in your protections. They'll scheme your protections, and they attack individuals. And then it's down and distance type tendencies that people will flop and do those things. So there's a lot to it, and you know, they're really good. They're good at it.
Is there any thought that you might get Jason or Amari or Cody back to bolster?
No, maybe one of those 3. Maybe one of those 3, and I'm not going to identify which one, so don't
Do
ask
you mean
me.
for this week or for the year?
I don't know the answer to that. But 2 of the 3 are pretty much done for the year.
Okay, thanks.
Last question from Tad.
Coach, you're going to be meeting with the players this week. What are you going to say to them that you want to share with us that to help them stay focused and stay with the process?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, and we talked about it Sunday as a team, is that we have some really good players. And the thing that we have to do is we have to make sure that our really good players always play really good. We don't have enough good players that our good players can't play good. Now, we have some fantastic role players, and they are doing a nice job in their role. If they want to increase their role, then they need to do better if they want to become one of those go-to players. But I think one of the things in the Wake Forest game is that we just had some of our really good players didn't play good. They played okay, but they didn't play good. And we don't have enough of those guys for that to happen. Now, on that point, it's just no different with the coaching staff, okay? I don't consider our coaches to be average. I don't consider myself to be average. And I thought that game we were just okay. We've got to be a lot better as coaches, and we've got to make sure that we're giving every opportunity for these young men to have an opportunity to go to a bowl.